He's the great Doc Emrick. He wins an Emmy every year. He's the voice of the NHL on NBC. You've got Game 2 Eastern Conference Finals between the Rangers and the Lightning coming up tonight. The Danettes are going to Game 2 Blackhawks and the Ducks tomorrow night. Doc, how are you?
I'm doing well, Dan. I'm here at Madison Square Garden on the 5th floor, and the Rangers are practicing, so I'll apologize in advance for any puck-hitting boards or glass. I'm glad you guys are going to the game, but I'm disappointed to hear that no one wore any hockey gear, because I've seen Flyers T-shirts before and Boston Bruins, but no one wore any today.
Fritzy had Rangers on Friday, didn't you, Fritzy?
I did. Last week I did wear a Rangers jersey.
Yeah, but we were actually...
okay.
It was an open...
You get the check mark last week.
Well, we were begging for tickets. That's why Fritzy wore it on the air, and nobody from NBC reached out to us, Doc, so thank you. It's a little sensitive subject here.
Good. The next thing we know, there might actually be one of those talkbacks in Sports Illustrated with a hockey player.
Wow. Well, maybe...
I always read them.
Okay.
I always read them, but I always notice that there's no hockey guy.
All right, Doc, you do me a favor.
Not a lot.
All right, then you say to Lundqvist that I'd like to talk to him, and we will put him in the magazine.
Okay.
All right?
He would be a good guy for you, too. Okay.
All right.
I will. I won't see him today because they're optional today, and I won't see him, but I'll make sure that I tell him next time.
The most fun team to call is who?
This year?
Yeah.
Or in prior years?
Well, let's go this year.
Okay. This year, I would say it's probably Chicago and secondarily New York, only because we know New York is defensive and they're really good at that part of the game. They don't score a lot of goals. Chicago tends to, except for yesterday. I think you'll see a better Chicago team when you guys go out there because they'll know that you're there and they're going to need to put on a good show for you tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
But those are both two fun teams to call. Anaheim, I know, would be if I saw them more often. And I'm just catching into Tampa Bay. They got shut down the other night, but they've got a lot of offense.
The toughest name to pronounce all time.
Sergei Nemchinov. I was working with Bill Clement. We were doing games on Sports Channel America, and I kept saying Nemchinov. For some reason or other, I had a mental block, and he told me, he's a former actor, and he told me, say this, Nemnov, Nemnov, Nemnov. And I did. And then he said, okay, now put the other syllable in. Probably more information than you wanted at this hour of the morning out in the Pacific time zone. But that was the hardest one because I kept saying it wrong all the time. But the multi-syllabic names are a problem, too. We have Vladislav Nemesnikov playing for Tampa Bay, Nikita Nesterov, Jonathan Marchessault. Those are tricky if they handle the puck quickly. Probably the all-time were the three Stastny brothers because they didn't hold the puck very long, and so I just shifted to first names. It was a lot easier.
I noticed last game you brought in other sports, soccered it. You had highlighted when they were passing the puck.
It's just what I saw and what it seemed like to me, I guess. There's nothing conspiratorial about any of this. It just... sometimes the brain locks and other times it's wide open, and I'm not sure you could argue about which characteristic the brain had at that point. But, yeah, it was just one of those sweeping moves with a stick up high, so that was the highlight. And a lot of these guys, because they do play soccer in the hallway, especially the European players, play soccer in the hallway, warming up and getting eye-hand and eye-foot coordination together before games. So that move is not really too unusual, but that's usually what I say is soccer to kick.
Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Final between the Rangers and the Lightning coming up tonight on NBCSN. We're talking to Doc Emrick, the lead play-by-play announcer for the NHL on NBC. How do you know when you've had a good game?
I don't know. There are times that you feel like, gee, I didn't make too many. I haven't done a perfect game yet, Dan, but there are nights you feel like that you haven't made too many mistakes, and so you feel better about it. I think the thing, too, is you like to be on top of calls, and as Derek Stepan said yesterday in the press conference, we don't have many tic-tac-toe plays in hockey when we get to the playoffs, especially in this series with Tampa Bay. They're almost all deflections or rebounds. And so you want to stay on top of those, but it's not perfect. And sometimes it happens so quickly you can't, and you don't know who tipped it, whether it went off a defenseman, as was the case in the winning goal in Game 1, or whether it went off of Dominic Moore, as it turned out that it did. So Pat Summerall at one of the CBS seminars, when I was doing some football and some other sports for CBS about 20 years ago, hadn't said anything during the seminar, and finally I said, Pat, you haven't said anything. What do you have to say? And he stood up and he said, remember, you always have more time than you think. And so there are times that you will wait on the crowd because the crowd, especially a home crowd, is really good anyway. And then you also wait to see, as they part, who was the guy who scored the goal. In a perfect world, you'll have it before he shoots, but it's an imperfect science for sure with me doing it.
We'll be watching tonight. Thank you. And look for us at the Ducks game. We'll have our shirts off spelling out the word Ducks.
I will watch for that specific reason. I will pass along your message to Lundqvist. And the next time you have Steve Alford on, please ask him about the 217 consecutive free throws that he hit at Manchester University when he first started coaching.
Thank you, Doc.
That's my only request.
All righty. I promise. Thank you, Doc. That's Doc Emrick, NHL and NBC.